well. How you doing? I'm Tommy, and you are on the boat. I don't know what the hell just happened. So everybody, this is an update on Nick Reiner. And here's the deal. Hello, Renee B. Right on time. Can you believe that? First comment. That is on time. That's pretty consistent for Renee B. So this is an update on Nick Reiner. And believe it or not, there's things to talk about. Lilac Lime, good to see you. West Coast Fancy Nancy is here. Chase the Heat. That's the Johnny Scoville. Surprised you didn't know that. I have been working on a couple of different stories that I'm really looking forward to bringing to the channel. However, it has been a day of absolutely unbelievable headache. Karen Dahl, good to see you. Lilac Lime, what's happening? Rocket Queen, hey, it is Relatable Reese. It does look good, does it not? That is my better half. This shirt, boy, you know what? Now on this, coming across on the color. Out of curiosity, everybody, what color is the shirt I'm wearing? I get a lot of different opinions on this, and I just want people to weigh in. It looks to me to be very pink. However, there are people that believe it's purple. It's kind of been driving me nuts. So here's the deal. We're going to be talking about the Nick Reiner deal. Tomorrow, the Nick Reiner is going to be arraigned in court. If you're not familiar with what an arraignment is, it is the time where the charges are read officially to the defendant. It is also the time that the defendant will enter a plea. The plea can be guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere, like I don't contest this. There's no chance of that happening. Hello, Rocket Queen. There's no chance of that happening at all. Honestly, they don't even really let you very often enter a plea of guilty if it is a major crime. If you're in there for shoplifting, the very day that you go in, you can say, hey, I'm guilty of this. If it's a major crime, then they want to make sure that your rights are protected. And more often than not, even if you decide that you want to enter a plea of guilty, they're going to, no joke. So probably pro forma, but Nick is going to show up tomorrow with his attorneys. He's going to be in there with Alan Jackson, and he is going to enter a plea of not guilty, and we will go from there. But there are some other interesting things that are happening. Hello, Patricia. Good to see you. Woodman, spare that tree. My shirt is pink. Well, thank you. A mixed bag of onions. Hey, Roxy Cole, good to see you. Wendy R., I'm glad that you're here. Woodman, I don't know that I've ever said hi to you. If I have, I apologize. My memory isn't what it used to be. If I have not, then hello and welcome to the boat. So the headache is really bad in the left eye. If it looks like I'm drooping a little bit and I look like the guy that might be a lead singer for Radiohead, I apologize, but it's kind of been doing that to me. Wendy says, like the purplish shirt. Okay. To me, it looks really, really pink, but what do I know? Honestly, I may be colorblind. It's one of those things. Yes, I have, actually, Johnny Scoville. Tommy Bird, good to see you. Hello, Raspberry Beret. And you are making margaritas and queso fondito. Well, hello. Awesome. Angie Mo, the dog mom. Good to see you. Barbara Waite, what's happening? Yeah, the migraine is kind of nasty, and it's making my eye droop, which is really kind of a bummer. It has a tinge of pink. See, everyone else has told me it is pink, that it might have a tinge of purple. It could be the color on the screen. Actually, it looks way different to me when I look in the screen than it does when I look on in person. But yeah, it's been a tough day on the eye. Marilyn Monroe is coming up, as is Jeffrey, the Green Beret killer. We're going to be talking about the Green Beret killer. There was a book written about him. Pretty fascinating case. I did a lot of research on it. I was going to do 2 shows today, but I've been wearing the Falcon hood for a lot of today. I am really not in a great shape with the eye. It's just been driving me absolutely crazy. Migraine, but all left eye stuff. So Mittens, good to have you here. Let's talk about Nick Reiner, because believe it or not, there's stuff to talk about. I haven't been going up every single day on this because you do see some pink. Well, thank you, Wendy R. Is it common for staff to get assaulted in psych and rehab? That's what I was told today. Honestly, not in my experience. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time in psych, but I spent a lot of time in rehab, and I spent time in rehab around some people that were pretty nasty. So I don't, that's not been my experience, but I would always say, check your back, make sure that you're looking around. Here's my experience. People that, the Jeffrey McDonald military doctor who killed his wife, West Coast Fancy Nancy, I would have done that today if my eye wasn't feeling the way it was. Burnsy, good to see you. Pinkish purple, he says. Looks kind of gay. I mean, pink. Looks pink to me, man. I love you. Tommy Bird, you're good. That's actually funny as hell. Pinkish purple. I'll go with that. I will absolutely go with that. But so here's the deal on this. A couple of interesting things are happening. The first is this. Tomorrow, he's going to go in for his arraignment. As I said, it's pro forma. He's just going to go in there and plead not guilty. That's how it goes. And then they're going to set out the next date, which is going to be more of a hearing, right? Always watch your six, Renee B. And look, the people that I've seen that, I've seen assaults happen against staff. I went to the special management unit for assaulting staff. The guy was a dick. The people that are kind, the people that try to work with people usually don't end up having any kind of assault happen. Normally, Renee B., this is stuff that happens. Man, don't do that to me tonight. Raspberry Beret, I'm going to be probably seeing a doctor tomorrow, and I will talk to them about particular medications. There's stuff that I could buy over the counter here. I didn't today. I chose to just ride this out and hope that it gets better after a little bit of sleep. While Reese was in town, I slept probably a little less than I should have. Not her fault. Fireworks were pretty heavy, and I stayed up a bit. Jennifer Minton, good to see you. Love the pink shirt, great color. Well, thank you. I'm a fan of this too. It was in Tennessee, and it migrated its way to Ecuador. Well, some of it was Reese's fault too, but that I'm not complaining about. The fireworks I will. Giggity. Anyway, so here's the deal, right? They have, down here, Roxy Cole, there's some stuff I could get over the counter that's probably a little stronger than you could get in the United States. Not super narcotic stuff, but they do have some stuff that's a little bit stronger. Even their NSAIDs, they have an NSAID here that dissolves under the tongue, which is kind of a super fast-acting non-steroidal anti-inflammatory that they say is about 10 times stronger than morphine. And my experience so far has been that absolutely, it really is. But I didn't get out to do that today. There was a lot of other stuff going on, especially with the particular brand of eye pain. But before the arraignment comes up tomorrow, you're going to be hearing a lot of people talk about two things. One is that he's been removed from, we're 8 minutes in. That's all right. I'm going to get demonetized anyway. Suicide watch. He has been removed from the watch. That means that he is no longer wearing one of those smocks that makes you look like Barney Rubble or an oven mitt or a turtle suit or whatever other people want to call it. It is a thick padded suit that keeps you from being able to twist it into a rope and hurt yourself. He has been removed off of the suicide watch. That does not mean that he has a cellmate. There are already a ton of videos out there talking about how now he's in general population. This cat's not going to hit general population before his trial. I would bet a pinky on it. Right? That's not going to happen with this guy. He's super high profile. They don't want him being terrorized. They don't want people trying to extort him. He is now in the exact same situation he was in a couple of days ago, except now they've got him in clothing. He'll be wearing whatever the outfit of the day is at the towers. Sometimes it's jumpsuits. Sometimes it's just going to be a T-shirt and a pair of pants made by Bob Barker. Not that Bob Barker, by the way, but a Bob Barker that makes all the clothing for jails. He's going to be in a normal outfit. It's going to make him a little bit easier to go to court tomorrow. It is kind of fascinating that they took him off the watch. I kind of figured he would be there until the 7th. I thought he would probably show up in that smock once again. It's certainly better for the defense, but don't believe the hype. There's a bunch of videos out there already about how being in general population is already terrifying the kid. He's never going to be in general population. Do I know if he is on medication? There is nothing out there that you can find that will tell you that. David Booley, good to see you. Daisy Kespo, 72, good to see you. There is nothing out there that will verify that one way or the other. Now, obviously, we know from the stuff that we've talked about in the past that he was being medicated. Or at least allegedly, there was some medication that he was supposed to be taking. Whether or not they carry that in. Normally, if you show up at a county jail and there is a prescription out there for you, that prescription, they will look up the psych department, the medical department, whatever. Hello, Joan. They will find out what you are on and they will try to put you on that medication. There's also a chance that the psych department there said, no, you know what? I think this may be a better chance if we try this. Hello, Karen. Who knows? But that's not. Still has a camera up in the corner. The difference is going to be that he's not going to be monitored in the exact same way that he was, and he is going to have access to things that, in theory, are a little bit more dangerous, right? Like a shirt, a pair of pants, probably a towel, a toothbrush. When you are on suicide watch, the toothbrush that they give you literally goes on the end of your pinky. I'm not joking. And you got to do this number with it. It's this big so that you can't sharpen it or try to cut yourself with it or anything else. In our county jail, I could bring my son's meds in. There are places around the country that allow that. That is kind of rare, but there are places around the country that allow that. I can't believe I'm coming up on 2 years for this and Reese's channel. Well, how cool is that? I am glad that you have been here 2 years, Mittens, and I love the picture of the kitty. I'm a big cat fan. I'm surprised you didn't know that. So he's not going to be on. There's nothing that is going to be very different. He'll get a spork when he eats. Normally, they give you a little piece of paper that's about this big. It has 2 arrows. It says, push the arrows together. When you do, you get a spoon that's made of paper. It's a god-awful way to eat. But now he is at least getting a little bit more. He's being treated a little bit more like an inmate and a little bit less like a psych patient, meaning that at least he has clothing on. He probably has a blanket and a mattress and a pillow. These are things that you don't get a shot at when you're on the watch. However, he is still going to be in a solitary confinement situation. He's not going to have a cellmate. They are still going to be watching him by camera. Instead of walking every hour to check on him, they will probably be doing 30-minute checks, which is superfluous at best because they do have a camera in the cell. They're going to watch him go to the bathroom, sleep, everything he's going to do in that cell, he will be monitored because this is a cat they can't afford to let something happen to. He can't hurt himself. I promise you. In there, he is still in solitary confinement and he's still on the watch. And I would be blown the hell away if that ever changes. If it does change by any chance, they're going to give him somebody that is very similar to him, which really honestly doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because the idea of putting 2 people in a cell together that are mentally ill doesn't sound like a great idea. But they're not going to be putting him in with somebody that will get very, very pissed off. Angie Mo, it is wild we've all been together that long, isn't it? It shocks me every time. Someone will pop up and it'll say how long they've been on the channel, and it blows my mind. But hell, that is what they gave me at a regional, and I was not on suicide watch, of course. Then again, I also had to sleep on the floor in my cell as well there. Yeah, I've had to do that. I'm assuming they gave you what they call a boat, which is like a small little plastic thing that it almost looks like they would carry you out to an ambulance on if something was bad. They call them overflow beds. They're absolutely god-awful. They're very, very uncomfortable. But if things get really, really jacked up and overcrowded, they bring out the boats. 4th of July weekend, holiday weekends, New Year's, things like that tend to get very, very crowded. You think he'd not house him with a mentor of some sort? They don't do that very often in county jail. Now, in the prison system, they have stuff set up like that. Because unfortunately, to put him with a mentor of some sort, you have to train that mentor. And in county jails, most people aren't going to be there for long periods of time. Admittedly, LA is slightly different because their prison system in California is so overcrowded that sometimes they'll give somebody a 3-year sentence. Any other place on planet Earth, you're going to prison if your sentence is longer than 365 days. But because of the overcrowding in the California system, if you have a 365-day sentence, let's say you have 2 or 3 years, sometimes they will let you serve all of that in the county jail. But they usually don't have the capacity to train people for My Brother's Keepers or those kind of programs. In the feds, there are men that cut themselves. I know that this is usually considered more of something that affects females, but there are cutters that are men, people that get some kind of it's very much like any other addiction. Cutting themselves releases dopamine and endorphins and things that they use so that when they start feeling bad about themselves, they get a razor and they cut them. guys that swallow things. Believe it or not, that is kind of an epidemic in the federal prison system. Guys that will swallow batteries, they'll try to eat radios, they will take, and they have a program for that where every single person in every single cell has somebody in there that doesn't suffer from that affliction, so that that person can keep an eye on that individual. They are rewarded financially for that, and they also get good time credits. They tend to be people that are very understanding, but that's not something that I've ever heard talked about in a county jail. It definitely happens in prisons, but I doubt that he has a mentor of some sort. He's going to be alone, and that's going to be heavy duty. I mean, honestly, this is a guy that's not spent a lot of time alone in his life. Most people do not go into solitary for any reason throughout their life. They speak every day to people. If you go 7 days, 8 days, 9 days without talking to somebody for lengths of time, granted, doctors show up and talk to him, but he's been in there since the 14th of December. That's a pretty long stay on suicide watch. I did longer. However, it is a long stay. And before I went to the watch, I had done, 12 months, 14 months or something on solitary confinement before. But the first time they put you on solitary, it does rack your brain a little bit. This is going to be tough on this guy. However, what also is interesting is, there's all kinds of talk in social media. One of the things that they're not talking about as much is whether or not he will be found competent to stand trial. That is a opportunity that he may not get. They may take a look at him and say non compos mentis. This guy may not be able to aid in his own defense. He may be so jacked up mentally. I don't buy this. I'm telling you right now, I don't buy this at all. However, they may say that. And if that's the case, it doesn't mean he's going home. It means that they're going to take him out of that facility and put him in another lockdown facility. It's not a hospital. He ain't walking out the front door. There's barbed wire, there's fences. It's just that everybody there is also going to be on that type of hold. In California, that kind of hold can last 2 years. That doesn't mean after 2 years you're set. It means that after 2 years, they're going to bounce you back to the court, put you through a whole bunch more tests, and you could end up going back and forth for decades. It happens to people because if you're not fit to stand trial, they're going to have to keep putting you through that damn process, which is hell on a lot of people. Farrah Fawcett's kid, Redmond, he's been doing that for 7+ years. Once they get you to the point where you can stand trial, it's like day one. You're going to go in there and you're going to go and go in front of a jury and a judge, and they're going to find out whether or not you're guilty. So if he's found not competent to stand trial, that doesn't mean he's getting a break. And people are going to sell it that way. Speaking of which, I saw a bunch of videos today that are talking about how on the 29th of December, California decided that they were going to put a security hold on all of the information concerning Michelle and Rob Reiner's autopsy reports. This has been in a bunch of even big channels. This has been put out as something that is extremely rare. This kind of thing never happens, according to other content creators. And there's conspiracy theories out the wazoo now because why are they doing this? This isn't the kind of thing that they do. Why are they trying to protect this kid? Here's the thing. It happens all the freaking time. I heard a lawyer today who said, I've tried hundreds of cases. I've never heard this verbiage. There is currently 200 people whose cases have security holds on the autopsies. In fact, the David and Celeste case, the autopsy on that is also right now to be held in a security hold. Very often the security hold could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months. On high profile cases, usually a half a year. And there's no way around it. Once this thing starts to get to where you're actually going in there and doing evidentiary hearings and things like that, all of this information has to come out. It also has to be handed over to the defense. In this particular case, they're saying the only people that can look at this right now is the prosecution or more importantly, the detectives. What we do know is it was a blade. It was an edged instrument. So he used a blade, a knife of some sort, and that they were dead, allegedly, within 1 minute of the attack. Now, that's odd, right? They're also were dead within a minute or two of each other. If it was dead within 1 minute, it makes you start to wonder. And if this sounds a little graphic, folks, it's kind of the nature of doing true crime. But You could stab someone in the heart and end their life pretty quickly. Or they exsanguinate, right? If you cut a major artery, people can bleed out in about 4 minutes. If you cut a couple of them, they could bleed out in a minute. They're not going to survive as they're pumping arterial blood out of a couple of large arteries. We know that it was in multiple stab wounds on both of these people. This sealing thing is not as big a deal as people say. In the Celeste and David case, the one where they found the girl in the trunk of the Tesla, this is a slightly different kind of situation. In the Michelle and Rob Reiner murder, we know who the suspect is, right? Now, everyone's going, well, we know who the suspect is in the David and Celeste case. Yeah, but we don't. We also know in the Michelle and Rob Reiner case what the cause of death was. Now, we don't know that in the Celeste case, right? The young 15-year-old girl that was found in the trunk of the automobile. This is a situation where that body had been thawed and chilled and thawed, allegedly. That's going to screw up getting a cause of death. It also allegedly was in some form or some, there had been body parts allegedly that had been removed. This makes it a little bit more difficult. And I'll be honest with you, that case is going to be very odd because they could come back from the autopsy and say she overdosed. And it could be a situation where the girl overdosed and whoever was there panicked and thought, I can't be associated with this. That won't be a murder. If you try to cover that up afterwards, it's not going to be murder. Here's another thing that doesn't come up a lot. When we watch Law and Order or we watch really fantastic movies about attorneys and things like that, they're always going to court and their goal is always one thing, and it's to find that person not guilty. In the real world, they want to get murder 1 knocked down to murder 2. That's far more prevalent than them actually trying to go all the way to the box and prove that the guy didn't do it. In some cases, murder 1 can be knocked down all the way to manslaughter if you can establish that this was a crime of passion. So when we start saying, why are they sealing these records? Part of it is they don't want social media, people like me, taking what we find out from that autopsy report and making crap loads of videos about it, because the entire world is already tainted, right? With the help of Mark Garagos and the people at TMZ, we all know a couple of things, right? He was schizophrenic. Allegedly, he was recently diagnosed as schizophrenic. Allegedly, he had stopped taking his medication and that had made him violent. By the way, nothing can back that up. I promise you, nothing can back that up. We don't know when he was diagnosed. I can tell you this, it would be very rare for a guy that has been seeing professionals since the age of 15 to get diagnosed with schizophrenia at 32 is an odd thing to happen. Normally, those diagnoses happen far closer to your teen years than your 30s. However, it could have happened. The hospital that he was going to, $70,000 a month, outpatient clinic in somewhere in LA, that does dual diagnosis. That would be mental illness and drug addiction. When you start to change someone's medication, it is incredibly rare that changing somebody's medication for schizophrenia makes them violent. I'm going to say that again. It is incredibly rare when you change someone's medication, because they normally don't go, all right, we're off this one and we're trying something completely different. It's normally riding it. They're saying, we're going to start to decrease the dose and see what happens, or we're going to start to increase the dose and see what happens. Lethargy happens far more often. Hey, Judy Jetson, good to see you. His boy, Elroy. So this is not typical, right? And if it comes out of Mark Garagos' mouth today, right, a lot of stuff is coming out about how they're sealing these records. And Mark Garagos is already coming out and going, well, it's probably because it's incredibly violent and they don't want the details coming out first. They're painting a narrative. Keep in mind, this guy hangs out with Alan Jackson, right? They're super close friends. TMZ is not what you think they are. They are not a news organization in the traditional sense of the word, or even what they used to be. Now they're sellouts. Now they're people that do everything they can to get all of us, right, to think in a specific direction. Like, remember when they were going, Diddy's going to be let out next Friday, right? The White House already said it. We got sources. How'd that pan out? When they start telling you stuff, your first thought ought to be, I wonder why they're doing this. Honestly, watching Harvey lately, it seems like he is conflicted about what he is saying on live, but he still runs with the narrative. Yeah, well, I can't blame him, right? Cognitive dissonance. that kind of being conflicted. If what you're saying, maybe you're getting paid to say, right? If it doesn't jive with what you believe might actually be the truth, that's a bitch of a thing to come out and talk about. And I would like to believe that the guy's got a little bit of soul left. I wouldn't put any cash on it. But if he does, then he's going to be conflicted. He was also conflicted on the Diddy thing, right? Wendy Har says, I agree about TMZ. TMZ is for sale to the highest bidder. Believe that. And it's amazing to me. This is an absolute miscarriage of justice, if you want to know the truth. For Mark Garagos to come on and talk about Diddy while Diddy is still having a trial ought to be a conflict of interest. And they actually tried to go after him for that, because anybody that is associated with the case isn't supposed to be jaw-jacking for the entire world to hear. The way he got away with it is he said, I didn't go on someone's channel. We did a co-broadcast. I was on my own channel. I'm allowed to talk about things on my own channel. I'm not allowed to go on and talk to media. Man, miss me with that stuff, right? Obviously, if you go on TMZ and I happen to be like, hey, here's Tommy Scoville from The Lifeboat, and I'm on TMZ, I'm on TMZ. Whether or not I'm broadcasting to the 250 people that are going to watch my show versus the 3 or 4 million that are going to watch TMZ, that's this. It's just a way of getting around it, right? By sidestepping. It's just dishonest. And Mark Garagos, I'm sorry, the guy is Diddy's advisor. So if he comes on and does the Two Angry Old Men podcast that he does with Harvey Levin, don't believe anything you hear, right? His daughter was Diddy's defense attorney. What's up? Like, how is this legal, right? But as we're going to find out in the upcoming days, especially vis-a-vis the Marilyn Monroe case, when you talk about people that are famous, or you talk about people that are wildly wealthy, people that are well-known, it is a different legal system. If Rob Reiner's name was Peter Smith and the parents that he killed were Rob and Michelle Smith, we would know exactly what was in that autopsy. I promise you. Same thing with the David and Michelle stuff. This is one of those situations where they are going to do everything within their power to keep the general public from putting out their opinion. Kind of fascinating, right? Because when the prosecutors came out, they said, listen, don't believe everything you're going to hear on social media. Only listen to reliable sources. Who the hell's a reliable source at this point? Honest to God. Because we don't live in a world anymore where if you come out and say something that's BS, you'll be in any trouble for it. I could come out right now and go, hey, I'll tell you exactly what happened in this murder case, right? Not only did it go down, but he found his mom in the kitchen, butchered her there, carried her up the stairs. No one's going to give me any crap for it. They're not. I can come out with any misinformation or disinformation or anything that I want. And what danger am I? Honestly, 2,000, 3,000 people see what I do. What danger am I to absolutely screwing up this prosecution? Ask yourself what danger TMZ is, right? Or any of the other people who are for sale. I'm sorry, if you go back and watch Megyn Kelly talk about the Jada Pinkett Smith lawsuit that is being brought by brother Bilal. She just out of hand said, I don't even believe that they even knew each other, which is patently absurd. And it makes you wonder, because it doesn't take me long to figure out how long they've been friends, right? And I would imagine she's got a much larger crew than I do. I'm doing all this research myself. Harvey Levin is an American television producer, legal analyst, journalist, and lawyer. He knows better whether he admits it or not. You know what? This is a hell of a comment. It's the truth. Trust me, he knows. I remember being told that the White House has pre-written responses for the news. Isn't that right? To some degree. I mean, what they have is a team of people that are ready to roll on anything that happens. The press, the press secretary and the people that work for the press secretary are constantly having to update because news stories come out literally by the minute. Don't I live near Venezuela? I live in Ecuador, which is definitely near Venezuela, to be sure. They will demonetize me. Make no mistake. Here's the good news. I don't give a crap. Every once in a while, someone puts up a super chat, and it makes up for the fact that they don't push me, honestly. And I would much rather be answering myself because Big Brother says I need to, right? And I did a show where I ripped on YouTube for taking down a video, and without me even protesting it, the video popped up the next day. So Apparently somebody listens, right? Yeah, not all money is good money. That is the truth. Carolina, Canada, I hope you're doing well. Don't apologize for being late. It's okay. Believe it or not, I'm going to leave this up. You can catch it on repeat. This is a situation, though, where this particular case has caught the world's attention. Nick Reiner killing Michelle and Rob, his parents. Michelle was a photographer, and obviously the world knows who Rob Reiner was. Some of the most beloved films ever made. Also, he was very politically motivated. I don't have any problem with his political views. They seem to be well articulated, and he wasn't a dick. He wasn't coming out and just absolutely being cruel or being an ass. I didn't agree with a lot of his politics. I'll keep that real. But I wasn't offended by any of it. I still love all of his films. De Niro's a dick. I can't stand his films, right? But I don't have a problem with that. But at least half of the country thought the guy was not just cool, really cool. The other half, there's a lot of Kool-Aid drinkers on that side of the equation. There's a lot of Kool-Aid drinkers on both sides of the equation. But there are people that absolutely hate him because he was not a supporter of Donald Trump. By the way, every time I say the word Donald Trump, I lose about 4 subscribers. I've lost 30 since doing the show on what happened in Venezuela. And I'll tell you something. Honestly, it's not something that's going to bother me a whole lot, because if you're so ideologically motivated that the only time politics are okay to talk about is if I agree with you, then there's something wrong with you as a human being, and you need to take a really good look in the mirror. This is a situation, though, that is going to get blown up and ugly. And you know what? All I had to do was say Trump, and 7 people just left. It is fascinating to me just how much bullshit is being run with already on this case, right? To hear lawyers who have tried hundreds of cases come out and say, this is unprecedented, this doesn't happen. It happens hundreds of times a year. At any given time, there are literally hundreds of cases that are sealed. And the term a security hold isn't new. I heard 4 large channels say, never heard that term before. Well, they've been using it forever. You can actually look up the code that says that you can do this. It is held to make sure that an O.J. Simpson case doesn't happen. If you remember, I did a show on this the other day. So much information came out so fast that the entire world got violent with their belief on whether he was innocent or guilty, right? They showed, the day that they read the verdict in the O.J. Simpson case, bars had it on television. Everyone was standing like this. In traffic, I was driving in Texas when that happened, and you could hear people leaning on the horn. It was just absolutely amazing. You know what? I agree with this to an extent. Judy Jetson. Judy says, no one really needs to know the details. We can all imagine what happened. Yes and no. There's a problem when we go down that road. And I'm glad that you said that. I'm not picking on you, but this was something I wanted to talk about. Why should we be bummed out or not at whether or not they put a security hold on this or on the Celeste and David? I don't want to tell you anything about this case. It gives a whole lot of wiggle room, right, for people to bullshit. It gives a whole lot of wiggle room for them to start doing stuff like not telling us the truth about specific cases, right? The RFK assassination, right? Once the autopsy came out on that, if you read the autopsy report on that and you don't think that somebody other than Sirhan did it, you're brain dead. I'm not being disrespectful. Sirhan was standing in front of him. He had gunpowder, right? Stippling, they call it, which means the gun ought to be about that far away. Someone shot him in the back of the head. 72 witnesses said the assassin was standing between 3 to 5 feet in front of him. He didn't do it. Right? Plain and simple. So when you hold stuff back, we lose faith in the system. Somebody said earlier, I can't remember who it is, I love the law, but it's just getting bastardized really bad, and it's getting very hard to believe in any of it, right? This is something that ought to be sealed. However, because of, especially if this was any place in America, but it's freaking Hollywood. And when someone is famous, Hollywood protects them. And we're starting to wonder, again, whether or not this is real. Thank you for clearing up about the security thing. I heard that earlier, too. We really need more questionable stories. We do not need more questionable stories about the law. Damn right. It's a great comment, too. So appreciate your streams, research, info, and smarts. What a kind thing to say, Jeannie Hansen. I really appreciate that. And you know what? If you ever had a channel, then you would know what $1.99 does. I'm not joking. It's a huge number of views that you don't have to get. It's a beautiful thing, especially when they're not pushing you. Thank you, Jeannie Hansen. I really appreciate that. This is a situation that we're going to get BS'd on. And when you know you're getting BS'd, then it starts to get really hard, right? There's no information out there. So what do we know right now? We know that they were killed with a knife. Here's something that I'm going to tell you, and it's unpleasant. But people who kill someone with a knife, if you've never seen knife fights, I've seen a crap load of them because I had the misfortune of being locked up in prison for a long period of time. And people fight with knives in there. They don't have a lot of guns, so they make homemade knives. And you'd be shocked how sharp you can make one. They make them out of the metal that goes into bunks very often. They're this thick. And they could take 6 months of sharpening that thing. But I've watched guys get stuck 8, 9, 10 times. They go to the hospital. They're back the next day. If you don't hit an organ, knife wounds aren't really all of that devastating. To be able to go in and kill 2 people, right? Normally, that's the kind of thing you think assassin, Navy SEAL, Green Beret, like those kind of people where you can get in because this is a incredibly personal crime. You have to get within a foot of the person you're killing. Plain and simple. You're not going to kill someone at arm's length. This isn't a pistol. You got to get in here, right? And you got to start really jabbing somebody and aiming for organs, or you got to start slicing the throat. This is disgusting. It's savage. Blood goes absolutely everywhere because it's not like the movies where a guy walks up and slits a dude's throat and the guy falls down. It's far closer to Kill Bill, where you go up and slice someone's throat and blood squirts out 12 feet in every direction, right? Then all of that blood, which is like lubricant, gets on the handle of the knife. If there isn't a hilt, it gets very hard to hold this weapon. It is absolutely brutal. When in prison, when guys go into riots and they know it's coming, they tape the weapon into their hand because the odds that you're going to be able to hold onto it when you're starting to go at somebody is literally impossible. So it may be a case where they don't want to release all of this stuff. When I found out that he took off their heads, to me, that screamed serious problems beyond drugs. If you're talking about the Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner murders, I don't know that we know that. What we know is that there were multiple stab wounds, and one fairly credible source said their throats were cut. In the OJ case, right? If you ever deep dive that, and I don't recommend that you do, but if you deep dive this, you're going to find out that Nicole Brown Simpson's head was just about completely severed off of her body. That takes effort. Again, it's not like the movies. When you start cutting into things like cartilage and muscle, I don't know if you've ever cut beef or done anything like that, but cutting through that stuff is damn near impossible. It's so hard to clean blood up. It is impossible to clean blood up. It really is. It's impossible. You can scrub down a room, and they're going to go in afterwards with a substance that, hey, Brandon Calloway, good to see you, brother. I'm glad you're here. Long time no see. They're going to go in with something called luminol, and they're going to spray the crap out of the room. Then they're going to toss a little black light on it, and the stuff inside blood, right? It's got a ton of protein in it. If you've ever had the misfortune of being around something like that, it smells like copper. When someone's bleeding a lot, it smells like pennies. It's a disgusting scent. There's a lot of iron. There's a lot of stuff inside blood that when it hits this luminol substance, it glows like the 4th of July. And I don't care how much you clean it up, it's still going to be there. Now, this doesn't sound like a case where he did a bunch of cleanup. But if he did, we wouldn't know about it, right? Because we're not getting any of the stuff released about this yet. And I kind of understand that. This is going to be a situation where the more people like me are talking about this, the more people like you are going to hear about this. And 12 of them are going to have to end up on a jury. If you watched any of the documentaries from 50 Cent on the Sean Diddy Combs stuff, he interviewed for the documentary 2 jurors. One of them, I'll bet you my pinky, followed the entire Diddy case prior to going in there. That is what you're trying to avoid. If they don't go for the death penalty on this, and I don't think that they're going to, because this is a situation that is going to suck. No, her breasts were not chopped off. In fact, that, and I don't know that was ever reported. There was a case in Nevada where a guy did that. I was actually in a courthouse when the guy that did it tried to shoot a judge through the window of the courthouse, and Johnny Scoville and I got locked in there for hours. It was a bummer. No, Tara, I'm not picking on you. It does happen. It especially happens often where men paid for the breast implants, and then in the course of killing them, they want to remove them. The OJ thing, though, I think he got in and out of there as fast as he could. I don't think it took a long time. It was vicious as hell. It was one of the bloodiest and nastiest crime scenes. Now, there's all kinds of reports that first responders have said that the crime scene of Michelle and Rob Reiner was the most violent they'd ever seen. None of those first responders have made any comments to the press. They're under a gag order. They've said nothing to anyone. So anything that you're hearing from that is absolute BS. I heard a psychic say that he had father issues because his dad dressed up as a woman. Interesting. Interesting. I think he had, if you're talking about Nick Reiner, I think Nick Reiner's issues, and I'm not a psychiatrist, right? I'm an ex-convict. But to me, this makes more sense than anything in the world. I started deep diving, right, when this case first started. And I started to try to find all of the different people who have said out loud or in writing that if it wasn't for Rob Reiner, I wouldn't be rich and I wouldn't be famous, right? And there are dozens and dozens of them that said, I owe every bit of success that I have in life to the fact that this man made me rich and this man made me famous. If by some chance you're a son and all you want is to be rich and famous, imagine how pissed off you are at a dad that seems like they can do it like this for everybody on the planet, but they can't do it for you. There have been signs of Nick or Reiner's violence throughout his life. That doesn't necessarily jive with, I snapped, right? The guy's been trashing houses. He's been doing all kinds of stuff. And, you know, people will go, well, that's not violence against people. Well, there were calls out to the house for domestic violence. They don't call domestic violence calls because you broke doors. And if you go, maybe they do. No, because there were 5 calls. One was called a door issue. They didn't call that domestic violence. But there were domestic violence calls. So this kid had put hands on people in the past, right? They'll have to have talent themselves. And look, that's what Rob Reiner told his kid. Honestly, when he brought him being Charlie, right, for the the movie that he wanted to make. At first, he wanted to make it into a series, like a TV series. And Rob Reiner said to him, yeah, this sucks. I'm sorry, this isn't good. In an interview, he said, yeah, he goes, Dad, at first I brought you that. He goes, yeah, and I told you it probably wasn't a great project. And the kid corrects him and says, no, you said it stunk. It was bad. I mean, maybe being honest isn't such a bad thing, but it could be. I agree with you 100%. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you said that, Incognito, because we're going to see a retelling of this story, right? The number of people that are coming out and saying he was obviously molested. There are people running with this shit like it's just the most obvious thing in the world. I'll say this again. I say it every time I go live. Hey, Suze, you have to report if a patient says I was molested. This kid went to rehab, depending on what number you believe, 18 to 20 times, starting at 15. The odds that he didn't say in a group session, in a private session, talking to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, at any point along the way, because I've been through a bunch of rehabs. I'm a recovering heroin addict. Been through a bunch of rehabs. Now I go to a bunch of rehabs. You spend a lot of time saying to people, you got to peel the onion, right? You got to peel the onion to just figure out what it is that caused you to do drugs in the first place. So you spend a lot of time talking about your childhood, talking about disappointments, talking about embarrassments, talking about being a victim. The odds that through all of that, I mean, maybe he decided not to ever bring it up. That's a chance. But if you're somebody that molested your kids, would you have the balls to roll that dice and keep sending him to one rehab after another, after another, after another? To me, that doesn't pass the smell test. When people confess to a crime and forego the little Jerry thing in a situation like this, always makes me wonder. Sirhan, no trial. Sirhan is the worst case ever. If you've never seen the show that I did on the RFK assassination, you should check it out. It's absolutely horrific what happened to him. And we're going to be talking about the Jeffrey McDonald case. There are people that have reached out and said, you got to cover this. This guy got screwed more than anyone on earth. Don't miss that one, because I'm telling you, that's going to be a fascinating thing for people that have followed that case. Hollywood, California. Somebody said earlier, what the hell's wrong with Hollywood? If I had to answer that in one word, I'd say bunches. of shit is wrong with Hollywood. There's new allegations against Will Smith. Hello, Alicia. There are new allegations against Will Smith. The nastiest stuff Will Smith is accused of, he's never been sued for, right? Because there are all kinds of parties that don't want to ruin their career and be involved in that kind of a story, which is kind of sad. But allegedly, this guy's been a scumbag for a really long time, but he made rap music that didn't have any curses in it. And he was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And he was just, I mean, look, I love watching the guy on screen. He's one of the most lovable characters ever. And he's a hell of an actor. His wife, I think, probably has cloven hoofs, right? If she takes all her clothes off, she's got red scales, right? Horns, bifurcated tail, carries a hay fork, looks a hell of a lot like Satan, right? For real. His wife is terrifying to me, terrifying. But this kind of crap just continues to happen in Hollywood again and again and again. And I'm getting ready to do a show on Marilyn Monroe, right? And been deep diving this one for a minute. Hollywood has been shitty since they invented the movie camera. As soon as people realize that if you film me in front of the camera, right, then I'm into, fame, fortune, everything that I ever wanted in life is just going to be opened up for me. Then everybody that has the ability to pull the trigger to say, you're going to be famous, you're not, you're going to be rich, you're not, those people go to their basest instincts. It may not happen the first day that they take that gig. It may not even happen the first year, but at some point they go, how'd you like to get naked to get this role? Right? The casting couch has been around since before there was colored film. You know what else has? Not giving a crap what happens to an actor or a musician as long as you can continue to get paid. You're going to tell me that Clive Davis didn't know that Whitney Houston was getting wasted on dope? The National Enquirer had pictures of her bathroom with crack pipes and meth pipes and her teeth sitting on the counter, but Clive never got a hold of that, right? Or when Saturday Night Live had Chris Farley back on, not as when he was on the show, but as a guest, and he came in with a bag of blow that looked like a 5-pound bag of sugar, and he had a couple of hookers with him. The people there, including the nurse that worked there, said, well, let's just hope he gets through the week. Because nobody gives a shit in Hollywood. It's about anything but the product. They're not going out of their way to help people. They're going out of their way to make money. And that's a terrifying concept. It really is. Marilyn Monroe was spiraling out of control. There was nobody that didn't know she was doing dope, and they didn't seem to care, right? How about Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz? Go back and study what happened to her. Because the people at the major studios were shooting her up with dope before she went out to film. She was a little girl. That's a sick, sick place, man. Whitney did have false teeth. Yeah, I promise, Renee B. Ezra Miller is coming. You know why Ezra Miller is taking a while? Because there's a lot of misinformation in that one. There really is. You know what? We're going to go into that, Tara. We have a very interesting, Judy Garland was one of the absolute worst tragedies ever. But again, they didn't give a shite at all what happened to Judy Garland. And that's just the truth. They didn't care. You know, they push her out there, right? Get her some dope. Now she's wired to hell. Get her something to calm her down. There are doctors in Hollywood, especially back in the day, you could doctor shop. You know, in the world we live in today, if you go to a doctor and you try to get a prescription for a narcotic, he'll pull up the computer and go, you got one from Dr. So-and-so, and you got 9 days left on it. I can't write you a prescription. That didn't happen in the 50s. You could go from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and all of them could keep writing you scripts. You're right. And and when you start looking into it, she was not a girl or a woman. She was cash. And that is the way Hollywood treats human beings. That is the way the music industry treats them. Nobody gives a crap, right? In fact, this is going to be horrible to say out loud, but if this isn't something that resonates with you, then you probably haven't done much deep digging, right? But take somebody like Whitney Houston. If you have her in your stable, then you insure the shit out of her. You have an insurance company that says, well, if she dies, we're going to pay off the 5 albums she owes you or the 10 albums she owes you. If she dies before her estimated time of death, and you go, how does that happen? You bring in actuaries who look at the person's life and go, okay, she's this gender, she's this race, this is what she weighs, her body mass index is this, her expected life expectancy is this long. They will absolutely write insurance policies for these people. And sometimes those artists are worth more dead than alive. That's a sad thing to say out loud, but it is the absolute truth. That's it. or if they're worth more dead than alive. If your insurance policy on your big name star is $75 million, and you come to the realization that she can't probably knock out another album ever again, she's just too far gone, she doesn't even make sense anymore, well, she's worth more dead than alive. People have insurance policies on their legs. They do, but those insurance policies tend to be taken out by the individual. If you're somebody that makes a living on your voice, you can take out an insurance policy, usually with the really high-risk places like Lloyd's of London or whatever. Or if your legs are your signature characteristic, you can insure your legs for X amount of dollars. Studios insure your life, right? Now, this isn't as big an issue as it used to be because Hollywood has changed considerably. Back in the day, someone would get with a particular studio, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayers or whatever, and you would sign a 10-picture deal. Now they've got you. They own you, Judy Garland. Now they own you for 10 pictures, and you just got to keep cranking out. You got to keep coming up, keep showing up, keep doing your stuff. These days, it doesn't really work the same way that it used to. Tina Turner did have her legs insured, and I don't know if you've ever seen her when she was with Ike and she was out there and dancing. Her legs should have been insured. She had incredible legs. They don't give a crap about people at all. Raspberry Beret says, same with Epstein, women are money. I think with Epstein, women were control. That's what I think. I don't think he was sacrificing women for money. And I think that the more you deep dive this, the more it'll jump off the page at you. It was about power. It was about the ability to blackmail people. I think that there are a lot of people in the entertainment industry that buy and sell humans. And when you start to do that, if you can get dirt on somebody, if you can have a senator with a videotape of him with a 16-year-old, you can determine what he's going to vote on. You can have him tell you every time a judgment is going to change the market. For instance, they're deciding in Congress whether or not a specific company is going to get a contract with the military. They're going to know that a month or 2 months before that's announced. When that's announced, that company's stock is going to go up 20%. So you can buy, and then, when you own senators, you own congressmen, you own politicians, now you're talking about power that goes so far beyond money. Granted, money will be printed, but Epstein, as much as he was a pedophile and a freak, I think he was an asset for a couple of different countries and their agencies, right? I think he worked for the Mossad. I also think he worked for the United States of America. Can I prove he worked for the Mossad? I cannot. I can prove he worked for the United States of America, though. That's not a problem. He got a deal in Florida, and it said in the deal, because of what he did for the United States, he wasn't going to have to go to prison on this. And none of his co-defendants could ever be charged, named or unnamed co-defendants. That's not a deal you get in a sex case. What did he do for the United States? Well, that's redacted. We don't know. But that sure as shit meant he was working for the United States. I don't think he was buying dope from some dope dealer, right? Like somebody cutting a deal to not go to prison on. By the way, if you have a sex beef, you're not cutting a deal to not go to prison. That's not the kind of thing. If you got a drug case, you can do that. If you're a white-collar criminal or any of those things. Who is the Mossad? The Mossad is the CIA, right, for Israel. It is the equivalent of our CIA for Israel. Although, I was going to say more frightening. But then again, I don't know that anything is more frightening than the CIA. Their motto is basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's by whatever means necessary. When you start to say those words out loud, whatever means are necessary. So if we got to sacrifice 2,000 underage girls to be molested and victimized, well, that's any means necessary, isn't it? And they start to believe that any of the bullshit that they do, if it stops a war, if it causes a war, if it does any of those things, it's for the greater good. Like if Pearl Harbor is going to get bombed and you're just willing to sacrifice 8,000 people. Find out you're relieved when you find out only 3,000 of them were dead, plus the ships you lost and all of that, right? So it's a sacrifice. And then you start to get into that whole mindset and you say, well, if you're a general and you say, we're going to send a bunch of troops this way, right? We're going to send 8 platoons. That's the side that they're going to get slaughtered, but you got to bring everybody that way so you can come around the other side. What's the difference? You're sacrificing people. Well, those people are walking in with guns. They kind of signed up for that. They're not getting killed in their sleep by somebody that just said, do them in. Do them in. We need to get into this war. And if you don't believe that that happened, it doesn't take much research to find out that we knew Pearl Harbor was coming. We knew it was coming, and we didn't warn our guys because we couldn't let them know that we knew. So we just had to let our guys get killed. Kind of a bummer, but that's and it's why I don't much trust the government of the United States. Yeah, you know what? I think that Wendy R says, I bet it is scary reality who Epstein was and what he was doing. You're damn right it was. But he was knee deep in the Iran-Contra affair. He had a Ponzi scheme he ran called the Towers Company, where his partner got 25 years in prison. Epstein dodged every bullet that ever got anywhere near him. That doesn't, you can go, well, that happens to all rich people. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Didn't happen to Diddy. Diddy dodged a bunch of bullets by throwing a bunch of money around, but you're going to get to a point where you can't make that happen. Do I watch the Sean Ryan podcast? I don't know who Sean Ryan is. I hope I don't offend anybody with that. Sean Ryan. That does not sound familiar to me. Sean Ryan? Sean. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Should I? Audra in Denver, good to see you. Sorry about that speeding ticket. This is one of those situations where, people say to me all the time, how could you leave the greatest country on earth? I love the country. I love the people. I loved the culture. I loved all of it. I don't trust the government enough to throw, it's terrifying to me just how much the United States lies to its people. Watch my show on MK Ultra. They've been lying to us forever. And I'll tell you something. Well, we'll do that. We'll do that when my eye isn't hurting, because the Maryland stuff, when you hear my take on it, Sean Ryan, I'll have to look into Sean Ryan. Renee B, I can. I'll tell you what, though, you want an easy, there's a book called Don't Know Much About History. They do a pretty decent job of saying exactly what happened there. Yeah, I will check out Sean Ryan. I like anyone that's doing good work. Check out a book called Don't Know Much About History, because it will teach you not only about Pearl Harbor, but a lot of other really, really interesting cases. That was one that really kind of sent me down the original rabbit hole. National security. Why is national security involved in Marilyn Monroe or Sean Combs? Well, tune in tomorrow, because I will be talking about Marilyn. And so here's the deal on Marilyn Monroe. I have a bit of a crush on Marilyn Monroe, and I have since I was a little boy. There's just something about Marilyn. I think everybody had a crush on Marilyn, male, female. And I don't mean sexual. There was just something about her that was innocent and sexual at the same time. It's just not something you see very often. And Marilyn was just somebody that everybody on planet Earth wanted to hug and protect. And unfortunately, no one did. And I think that, so I have read everything that I could ever read on Marilyn Monroe. I've seen every documentary you could ever read. And I have a slightly different take than the next person. I'll give you a spoiler alert. Did the Kennedys kill her? Absolutely. Right? She was relatable. It's funny you say that. I know another girl that's relatable, has the same kind of beauty mark, kind of got a crush on her too. If it were not for the Kennedys, Marilyn Monroe wouldn't be dead. Now, does that mean that they went in there and bumped her off? We'll talk about it tomorrow, I promise you. Because it's a fascinating subject matter. But it's another fascinating subject matter that will make you distrust your government. And that's kind of a bummer. It is, it's really, well played, Incognito. You did well. It's a fascinating case. If nothing else, it is a wildly fascinating case. It's also a bummer to me that she was played off as the dumb blonde. She was as far from being a dumb blonde as any blonde ever, right? Marilyn was incredibly sharp, incredibly intelligent. And it's, hey, whine a little bit more. Good to see you. It's definitely one that you're going to want to watch if you like Marilyn. I'm hoping to get a couple of shows up tomorrow. I'm hoping that when I wake up tomorrow morning, it doesn't feel like there's an ice pick in my left eye, because that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Just to recap. Yes, he's been removed from suicide watch. Nick Reiner is not on suicide watch. He is not, however, in general population. He does not, however, have a cellmate. He is still in isolation. He's going to remain there. What? You mean the U.S. government lies to its people? Like we're just ignorant slaves to them or something without knowing it? And we believe, Nah, couldn't happen, Tommy Bird. Couldn't happen. Yeah, she was wildly intelligent. She really was. She was a very intelligent person and really sort of sought out knowledge. I still have a crush on her. I feel bad about it. Jamie Cotton, good to see you. Don't all governments lie to its people? Absolutely. To some degree, every government out there is lying to their people to some degree. However, the United States of America has made it a mother-loving art form. And I promise you, stick around for a little longer and I will prove that to you. Now, I'm going to go put that Falcon hood back on and I'm going to see if maybe I can't get some sleep. Second part of this is, yes, they put a security hold on the autopsy reports. It's not unheard of. It's not even uncommon. It's done all the freaking time. There is more than a couple of hundred of them at any given time. It's not unusual. They're going to push it out that way because you know what? Makes for a much better story. But it's bullshit. In fact, the David and Celeste case that we're all talking about as well, that also has a security hold. What are the odds? The two cases with celebrities that we're talking about right now both have a security hold, but they're going to come out and tell you, never heard of it. Never heard of it. Really bizarre. No, it's not. Don't get played. I'm Tommy, people. Between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart, all right? God bless. I will see you on the next one. And this shirt, it's pink. Have a good night, people. God bless.